Hello, and welcome back to the Meaning Forge. Throughout history, we have seen many people rise to the status of being an individual. Oftentimes, they are the epitome of their time, while others usher in a new age of understanding. Join me as I discuss a few attributes and forms of becoming the highest form of yourself. Hopefully, together we can get a better understanding of how we can become our best self. Before we move forward, what does it mean to be an individual? What does the word individual mean? The word individual means, in today's terms, is indivisible and in many cases means a few different things. The word comes from Latin dividere, which means to divide, then evolves into dividuus, which is divisible. And then you start to get into the compound word using in, which is not. So it becomes individuus in Latin. And forgive me, my Latin pronunciation is very rusty. It's been many, many years since I've taken Latin. During the medieval era, the word transformed into individualis, and now, in its current state, the word is individual is from the Middle English. In many regards, it is a sense of being separated from the rest, standing alone, or of one mind. The word individual, in a sense for me, is to seek proper alignment of the self. Many of us use our sense of self to identify and discriminate who we associate with and who we do not. We often associate with people like us, but in this sense, do we lose our sense of self or our individualism, or just attach ourselves to another tribe? Is being an individual a good thing or bad? I'm sure there are many cases where you could say being an individual is good, while on the other side of the coin, it is bad. I do not know exactly if being good or being bad is a result of individualism, or if it is a process of being an individual that became corrupted. Maybe a question we can explore in the future is how people corrupt their sense of self. However, for our purposes, individualism is a requirement, and in this framing is a good thing. What are the attributes of an individual? Well, the biggest idea here is an individual is someone who has reconciled their many identities and character into something inseparable. They potentially see existential issues a necessary requirement for human growth. And let us kind of transition to examining the concepts and attributes, models, and modes of being with a form of what individual may look like. So, from an attribute perspective, I see 5 major things that comprise of an individual, and it's unfortunately not identity. One is they're able to reconcile themselves. They're able to deconflict all the notions of their identity, for example. They're able to reconcile themselves both in the small picture and in the large picture, which then leads to number 2. They epitomize wisdom. So wisdom is not just this vacuous term. It really means, in some regards, which we have to do another video on, is something beyond knowledge. Something that looks like knowledge combined with relevancy, combined with understanding of how all of these things fit together. And so wisdom is an ongoing thing, but an important attribute. The next one is maturity, which we'll also examine further. Maturity is also a rough thing to look at, because at some level, maturity, I think, highest value is some form of empathy. And empathy, to me, the way I look at it is it's almost the highest form of maturity within that structure. The next one is, they may not be perfect, but they've developed an engine of self-improvement or self-government or even self-leadership. So that way they're always kind of seeking this improvement. They're seeking responsibility. And this is really a key thing that prevents stagnation and always propels their growth. Then the last one is also pretty important. They have a unified why. So at the end of the day, having a why, in the words of our good friend Nietzsche, is something to the effect of uh, anyone with a why can stand anything. Even Viktor Frankl looks at this a why as a substance required for our existence. And so all of those things combined kind of lead to this mode of being, all five attributes, and to form an individual, in which case it transforms to the structural organization of what an individual does. And so what that is someone who is centered on principles, takes responsibilities, and aims at the betterment of all by seeing a substance of our existence. So now that we've kind of looked at what some attributes and forms, modes of individualism look like, let's look at what is not an individual. First, I would say is the opposite of the following attributes. Um, the opposite of all those attributes, and because of that, do not follow the form of the individual. Um, there is no need for perfection. Perfection is not a limitation of being an individual, and the idea of enlightenment or godlike ability are not required to bear this mantle. I carefully use ideas and concepts identified uh, in the Tao Te Ching or even in Christianity, which turns out that to follow the early followers of Christ identified following Jesus as the way, which is interesting in the overall world. Jonathan Vervaeke in Awakening from the Meaning Crisis videos had cites this definition. Overall, the idea here of an individual is reminiscent of Carl Jung's The Undiscovered Self. And the idea that with knowledge and understanding, we are able to become a one in society, so that 1 plus 1 equals 2 and not 1 plus 0. And out of an individuation process, we're able to build a meaningful society and empower others to do the same, resulting in our collective ability to progress. And in a way, I'm treading this idea of being an individual somewhat paradoxically, because an individual can also fit into a collective very well. Matter of fact, an individual that's properly aligned should be the cornerstone. All individuals should be the cornerstones of a collective society. Again, 1 plus 1 equals 2. And so we want to continue to have more ones than zeros. And for those who are zeros, we are empowering them through maturity and wisdom and a few other things to kind of build them and make them into this best sense of themselves. And lastly, why should anyone want to be an individual? Well, I'll tell you this. People who are individuals are in many ways just modest. I wouldn't be looking at the next president or some big CEO as particularly an individual at times. They can have some attributes and may, in some case, even slightly contradicting myself, follow the form of this slightly. However, being an individual to achieve those goals isn't probably the right framework. And so I'd be very careful to say that. But as an individual, you can see a chance of living a more meaningful life through a deep understanding of yourself and the world around you. And that world could be any number of things, fostered by natural philosophy, religion, any just any number of things. At the end of the day, you become principally centered, and you're taking on that responsibility and aim at the betterment of all, respecting of other people as well. I would be remiss as well to tell you that it's easy. Being an individual is by no means an easy thing. You will lose friends. You will gain friends. You will find that people may not see eye to eye with you, but you can also walk away in complete disagreement. while also treating them with respect and them treating you with respect. So keep that in mind. And keep in mind that overall, this journey is not hard. That's why I call it the Meaning Forge. Because in many ways, the forge is not a nice place to be in. It takes a lot of physical exertion. It takes a lot of resiliency to stand in the heat and to make something out of several different materials and allowing it to go through this reaction that forms it into one thing. And in future episodes we'll talk about what these symbols mean, but you're forging your own sword of meaning, your own sense of self. And as you forge this, I hope that you are able to share how you've done it and share your story with everyone, so that way we all kind of get better roadmaps and better charts and better navigation for our own age of self-discovery. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope this helps progress our sense of what an individual is. And moving forward, I hope that this channel helps you in more ways than one. Hopefully next time I'll see you again. Bring your hammer, and I'll see you in the forge.